Y para darles a ustedes la oportunidad de preguntarme algo, si es que tienen alguna duda o tienen alguna pregunta o inquietud para que se la hagan ahora que está aquí. Aquí está el micrófono y son bienvenidos a hacerlo.
Hi. I have a question regarding to the technicity of photography. For instance, I like photography and I love it, like it's one of the things I love the most. But I kind of connect with what you say about the thing that you didn't grow in a place where you had many opportunities. Sorry, I get emotional. Well, no, I don't have to say sorry for that. So, right now I have like this world of opportunities like in my hand, but it's so many things right now that I don't know what to choose, right? Because it's like this, I don't know, I guess you know what I mean by what you have said. I will guess it. I don't know if you know. What do you recommend for people like me or for people that love photography and don't know how to start, just given the step of producing something way more further than your own space, you know? Like sometimes it's scary when you do something you love, but it's so personal. And you don't know if people will understand. That's my question. Like, how do you choose a way of starting in your own way, right? But that in a world that is so full of opportunities right now for me. That's my question. Kind of, it's more like for me because I don't know people's lives, but I really. It's not that I don't care, but of course I care, but I cannot ask for anyone else. So my experiences, I started taking photos with cameras that my dad bought, and they had like this, 30 photos, and then you reveal it, and then you have to wait. It's like a codec thing that now they do as hipsters, but before that was like the only way, like for me. And I started like that. And then I moved through the digital because life and 21st century. And I moved to digital, but I did it with my phone. Like I always took photos with my phone. Still, sometimes. Then I started with the iPhone appeared and in my life. And I took photos with my iPhone 4S, and I have so many photos, but they're not the best quality, but I love them because they mean something in the history of my life. And then I have now, when I went to Belgium to study in an exchange program in the university, I was with Brigitte Grenier. I don't know if maybe many people know it, maybe not. I didn't knew her when I met her, but when I met her, I knew that she was like gigantic in the documentary, whatever. I don't see people by what they are, by what they do. I see people by who they are, and then I met her, and she taught me, but by practice, because it was so intense the course that she couldn't explain many techniques, and what she said was, experience, go ahead, go take photos. And I have this series in Brussels, and then I have like so many things, but I don't know what to do with so many photos right now. And I just want to start like not only cleaning my vision and projecting my vision to my present and future, but also do something with what I have, right? That it's kind of a historical photography in my personal experience that means so much to me. Like how do you, when you have so many things, my question, I will read replant my question. So I read that the first time you did something with your photography, like that it's in your page, that you go through the bottom. It's 1979 in your page. I don't know if that's right. So when you did that and you started understanding by reality that surrounded you, that you could live through photography, right? What is the first step, or what is like the recommendations you could give to someone like me that it's preconceived the idea that you cannot live through art, and photography is kind of an art. It's an art. It's one of the most beautiful ones.
I should start trying to answer.
Sorry.
I think if any of us choose a medium that is desirable by a great many people, such as photography, or music, or writing, or dancing, or painting, or many of these art forms, we are immediately under intense pressure of competition. Everybody wants to do these things, you know. So if I said tomorrow, I really just want to be a rock star, I want to perform music, so how would I go about that? I would have to start basically at the beginning. And that is what you are starting in many ways. You have lots of competition around you, and you have to find something that is personally strong for you. So there's different levels of photography, of course, you know, whether you want to exist in the art level of photography and exhibit your photographs, or whether you want to do some commercial photography. There's many ways, or whether you want to be a part-time photographer and do other things, or whether you want to teach photography. There's just many, many different ways of doing it. Nobody can tell you what to do. Basically, it always comes from within. I mean, you say you have all these images, these possibilities, so you can either say, well, that's a problem, because it's a weight, or you can say, that's great, I have a foundation. It's exactly how you want to view it. But if you take it all together and stick it on your shoulders, it's going to be an extremely heavy weight, which you will not be able to carry. I mean, my advice for what it is that you kind of almost say, okay, what do I do tomorrow? Forget this for the time being. Because ideas come from within. If you have to sit around and kind of emotionally think, what am I going to do with this? And how am I going to do it? It doesn't work that way. At least it doesn't work that way for me. I find by working, things naturally come. I'm not anymore right now, but I was a runner, a marathon runner. I did many, many marathon runs. I would go for long distance runs. And inevitably, every time I would go for a long run, an idea would just pop up. But they came from not focusing. It's almost, you have to kind of look away from all that stuff, all that accumulation, all that history, and start looking over here and start, what should I do? And when you're doing something over here, I guarantee at some point say, oh, you know, I could do this with that over there. And then you pick out a certain area. So I have, you know, I have 45 years of negatives, huge, vast archives of negatives. And if I look at them all and say, when am I going to print these things? I wouldn't ever go in the darkroom. It would be too heavy for me. It would be too overpowering. So I work on different projects, and then I think, oh, you know, now I'm working in South Korea. You know, I really should do a project on South Korea. And then I'll go back and find negatives I made 15, 20 years ago. Or this Forms of Japan book that's somewhere up there. This was, you know, these photographs go back into the mid-80s. Things that I hadn't printed. And I wouldn't print unless I was working on a specific project. So you can't just take it all together. You have to do little by little, and you have to kind of go off and start pursuing your life and not be burdened down with what you have. And I'm sorry it's not a great answer, but I'm not really a psychologist. Yes.
Is this on? Yes. Hi. Well, I have a question. As you told us that you have a religious background, does the, I mean, we may sound dumb, but does the white mean the good and the black means the evil? I mean, yeah, I'm not an art student. I mean, I'm part of the engineer part of this this school, but I really find it interesting. I mean, like you repeat like in 45 years, right? Like this, not the same concept, but the same color. I mean, you have like this. It's hard sometimes to stay in like in the same style, for example, but it's beautiful. It's so calm. But does it really? Is it like trying to reflect a religious experience in your photography, or I don't know? I mean, how do you stay consistent in all your work through your all your lifetime? Yes, I mean just just landscape and then the confessions, but it's still kind of the same concept, and it's really interesting this cohesion. I don't know how to
Well, I think there's a certain cohesion of the work, and you know, when you just see it up here, it looks like it's similar. I understand. If you look at specific bodies of work, they can be quite different. But I am Michael Kenna. I am who I am. I always have been who I am, and I'll be Michael Kenna, you know, next year and the year after. Yes, things change in life, but basically, I am who I am, and I am consistent. It's just the way that I live life. The black-white thing has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. It's I can have black in a photograph or white in a photograph. It doesn't matter. A lot of the, just to address that to begin with, I would say the first third of my career, I used a lot of darkness, a lot of black, because I come from a European kind of romantic tradition. My favorite photographers were, you know, Brandt, Sudek, Auger, Giacomelli. You know, they're kind of dark romantics almost. And then I started going to Japan and Asia more and more through the 80s and 90s and 2000. I became heavily influenced by an Asian set of aesthetics, and it was back to front, you know, right to left. A lot of visual space was white. There was a lot of left out. There was a lot of kanji characters. So my vision changed. Instead of a lot of black, I was using a lot of white. It became more and more minimalistic and fewer forms in there. But I don't think it has really anything to do with religion as such. Going back to the consistency, I find that a photograph I made in 1975 would sit very happily one that I make next week. So, you know, one can be heavily criticized by that and say, well, he just hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't advanced, he's not moved, he's not... and again, it always comes back to personal choices, decisions you make about yourself. I've never, ever, for some reason, I don't know why, never been influenced by what is going on around me, by the current trends in photography or fashions in photography. And I've never felt that I had to do something because somebody else was doing it. You know, this is the style. You know, big color prints is the style right now. You know, whatever it is the style. I couldn't care less. And I'm a bit weird because when I first started in photography, I would, you know, read lots of books, history books. I would go to exhibitions. I would go to museums. As time progressed, it doesn't matter in what I do myself. And again, that can be criticism. I have a way, I have a life path which I thoroughly enjoy, I'm absolutely passionate about. And you know, if I continue this, to me, this is what I love doing, and so I will continue to do it. So musicians, you know, we follow musicians, and it's very interesting because musicians have a certain sound, a certain kind of vocal vocabulary that they come up with, certain styles, and we love that. And if they change too much, we say, you know, we liked what they did before. Oh, they're not changing. You know, they're the same. Why aren't they changing? So it seems regardless of whatever any sort of visual artist does, they can come under some level of criticism. I'm completely content with what I'm doing.
What do you love the most of photography?
What do I love the most of photography? is no one thing. I love the whole picture. I love getting up in the morning at 2 o'clock in the morning and going out into a freezing cold landscape and exploring and finding things. I love hanging out for a 10-hour exposure at night and watching the moon slowly rise and the stars move and the clouds and trying to calculate, well, how is that going to fit into the picture? You know, how is that going to work? I love Christmas when I get my negatives back. I first see them. It could be months after I photographed. Suddenly I have these negatives and contact sheets, and I see all these things that I photographed. I love being in the darkroom, as I've told you. I love seeing the final prints on the wall. I love doing books. I don't know about love openings, but they're opening. Basically, I just love all aspects of the photographic profession, the exploration, the long, slow journey. It's all quite wonderful, and you know, there's boring bits. You know, there's taxes, there's bills to pay, there's retouching of prints, there's matte cutting, there's dry mounting, there's shipping, there's accounting. There's all sorts of parts to this profession which are not so interesting, but it's all just part of the package for me, and I try to embrace it all. You know, life is so full, and it's so wonderful to. We always have this choice, you know, like. I'm lucky. I'm so fortunate that I can pursue a profession that I absolutely love for all this time, and I'm still here, still sitting here after all these years. You know, like Simon, was it Paul Simon once says, you know, still crazy after all these years, and I feel that about photography.
For portrait pictures or family pictures, are you the one that is taking the pictures in your family or with your friends?
Not very often. No, I mean my wife brought me one of these, so occasionally I take pictures of family and stuff, but it's not really my thing. I mean, for a long time I took pictures with my Holga camera of family, but I don't have the proclivity to make family albums all the time, to kind of keep up with everything. It's almost too much. So
you're always
sorry?
So you are always
sometimes, but I try to avoid it whenever possible.
Hello. It's really an honor to meet you in person. And I wanted to ask you,